We made it inside the palace. We are on the tour now. Not everybody else, 2 people took the elevator. We're all taking steps.
Everyone here? Okay. Welcome to the staircase of Prince Harry the Navigator. This is a very interesting part of the palace because this is said to be the only structure of the original convent that survived the fire. That's why stylistically it looks so different to the rest of the palace. So here we can see a medieval structure original from the 14th century. So all of the tiles that you see around are typical Portuguese tile work from the 14th century. Now, let's go see another very important room of the palace, which is the Court of Commerce. Let's go this way. We'll say in Portuguese.
Wow.
Feel free to sit down on the benches wherever you guys like. She wanted the city to have a specific place to deal with all the disputes. And in this court you can see paintings by the Portuguese artist Salgado all around. And in total it took him 5 years to complete. The one that you see in front of you represents the 13th century. So there we can see a medieval open-air judgment, and we have as the judge the king, the liege, sitting there with the crown. So back then the king was the voice of the judgment, since he could make any decision. He was above the law. But if you look at the other side of the courtroom, now you see represented Room is to honor all of the presidents that have ever been the head of the Association of Commerce. Starting on this side, we can see the oldest generations. On the bottom left, we see that the very first president, elected in 1834, was Arnaldo van Zeller. And as you can hear from the last name, he wasn't Portuguese. He was Dutch. So you don't have to be Portuguese to run for the president here. So that kind of gives up for all of you guys. And one of the most recognizable names that we have here is of Joaquim Augusto Koch. For those who love Porto wine, Koch is considered the oldest and one of the most famous brands that we have here in the country. It's very beloved, especially internationally. And Koch wasn't Portuguese either. He was of German descendants. And on this side, we can see the youngest generations. They're on the second row with the red background. We see Antonio Oliveira Callum, another very recognizable name in the Porto wine industry.
Uh-oh. She's starting. She's starting.
Mulher simples. Uma mulher simples.
All right, welcome everyone to the Golden Room. As you can see, we have golden leaf in the ceiling here, and these chandeliers are also painted in gold. This room is still used once a month by the directors to have their meetings here. So the palace is actively used every single day by the Association of Commerce. But the most impressive part about this room is actually the floor, because what we have here is done with an Italian technique called marquetry. And it doesn't involve any nails or glue. It is only the pressure applied to each perfectly cut wood piece that make the pattern look like this. So there's so much pressure in this floor that if you were to try to take one of them out, it would all fall apart. So let's not try it. And the only place in the palace where you guys will be able to see where it says the name of the current president is right here on the second frame. You can see that since 2013, the president here has been Dr. Nunca Mais Sobreviveu, which is a very important thing. And now, let's go see one of the most interesting rooms that we have. This is the room where most of those presidents were elected. It's called the General Assembly Room. Let's go this way. actual fish. So, more Portuguese than that, impossible. And what we have here, this is the coat of arms of the association, also done in plaster, but it's coated in bronze. On the very top, you guys see a dragon because it is the modern symbol of the city. And it has been very much popularized by our football team. And around the dragon's neck, you can see written Invicta Cidade. That means Cidade Invencível. That means the invincible city. That is the nickname of the city of Porto. And the only thing that we have here that looks real, and it is that chandelier above you. That's entirely done with bronze. So in total, it weighs a ton. And this was one of the very first light sources here to be lit up by electricity, because the palace was the first building in the city to have access to it. And because it was very new to the country, that meant that it was very faulty as well. So all of the light bulbs that you see there hanging down, they can be converted into being right side up. Because any time electricity wouldn't work here in the palace, they just had to convert the light bulbs into candles. That way we would never run out of light. Now, let's go see the portraits room. Let's go this way.
I don't know if you heard that, but from here down, it's all wood. From here up, it's all plaster. And it was painted with codfish tails to get this wood texture. It's not wood. It's plaster because plaster burns slower. And the city was going through civil wars and lots of fires happened. Oh, wow.
Because he was the first emperor of the country after the independence in 1822. And once he became the king of Brazil, that meant that someone else had to represent Portugal. And that role fell to his daughter Mary when she was only 15. So Mary became crowned Queen Mary II, or Maria Segunda, and she was known as the educator because she created so many schools and infantries here. She had a true devotion for children's education. And on her second marriage, she married Fernando. He was known as the artist. And together, they were known for being the true love marriage in the royal family, which was very rare. So they ended up having 11 children together.
Wow.
But Mary passed away at only 34, trying to have the 12th child. So the next king had to be her oldest son, and that was King Peter V, or Peter Quinto. But Peter V passed away even younger due to a disease at only 24. And he didn't leave any children behind. So the next king had to be his younger brother, and that was King Louis I, or Louis Primeiro. And King Louis was very famous, like his mother. He was known as the popular one. He was very praised for his beauty back then. And he married Maria Pia, an Italian princess. And together they had the next king, King Charles I, or Carlos Primeiro. And as you can see, King Charles was able to look a little bit like his father, but he did not have the same face. In fact, he had the opposite. Because while he was the king here, the popularity of the monarchy was just falling apart. Because the Portuguese wanted a republic. So to fight for it, they created a movement. But that movement became a revolution. Because in 1908, while the king was having an excursion in the center of Lisbon, in the famous Rei do Passo, two Portuguese people decided to assassinate the king. So the next and very last one became his son, King Manuel II, who was the last because he was only on the throne for 2 years. In the 5th of October of 1910, the monarchy officially fell here, and we had installed the republic. So since 1910, we've only had presidents in the country. Well, one dictator, but that's another story. Emmanuel had to flee to England, where he lived the rest of his life in exile with his mother. A treaty effect quite advanced for the 19th century. Almost looks like one of those anti-Escher drawings, right? Yeah, the Asian stairs. Now, I'm going to show you guys the official route of the city of Porto. That means that every time we have any president, monarch, or chief of state visit the city, this is where they have to be officially received. This is usually known as a showstopper, considered one of the most beautiful rooms in the world, but officially called the Arabian room.
Wow. We'll get there. From way back here, it looks good, but we're about to go in. Wow.
And after you will see the 90s, Aeronex, which is the stock exchange official now in Portugal, is in Lisbon.
Right.
So since the 90s, it's in Lisbon.
Yes, but for the government, it was established always in Lisbon.
Sorry.
You have an insane camera.
I know, I'm very busy. I only have two hands. She respects the camera. Not the video camera. I've got my Sony around my neck. This room is insane. Wow. I always do that. I copy what people say. She said I have an insane camera, and I said this room is insane. If you watch my videos, I always say everything is crazy. But I just said it's insane. I'm not original. So at the top, there are smoke rooms, obviously where people would go smoke back in the day. But I don't know if you can pick up what she's saying, but this place could be rented out for like 8,000 euros at night. It's more expensive during the day. She's talking. So this room is called the Arab room. So I heard her say it took 40 years to finish the staircase. These chandeliers, these two, weigh 3 tons total. And they're only brought down once a year to clean and do maintenance. Going down the steps. You can't even see. I didn't realize it was pointing so high. I think the tour is almost done. So the tour is done. We are free to check out the bottom floor. These are some coats of arms.
Yeah.
We have pastel de nata inside the palace. I'm good though. I'm good. That's where we were to start things off. There's also a jewelry store. This is a Palace of Commerce, so kind of makes sense. That was a cool tour. Let's get one more final look. All right. Unfortunately, the battery on this is a little bit low. I didn't charge it because it comes with a charger handle, which I brought, so I can just put that in. Well, we're gonna exit. We're done. We're done. That was the palace. Yeah, with that kind of marks the last, that's kind of monumental. It's like the last part of my Portugal stay. I'm sorry, no, that's not true. My Porto stay. I'm gonna go to a market, yeah. But I mean, I don't know how traditional that is. You know what, while I'm here, I'm gonna go take a picture of that. And I know the river's literally like, if I go down that street over there, but I don't know how my legs can take it. But let's see. Well, that was cool. I hope the video comes out okay. I was looking with my eyes more than looking at the screen. As one does. But a really cool little dip into history. What I'm curious about, I've got my mic. I wonder if it picked her up how much what she was saying. That building's kind of cool. All right, I'm gonna take a picture of this building and then I'm going to walk to my heart's telling me to go to the river, but I've already done that during night. If it was sunny, I'd go, but I'm good. I'm gonna take a picture and then get a bus to the market.